Hello there, many thanks for joining us in our Tuesday Business News Report. It's now time to bring you the feature on the show today as we focus on Nigeria's agricultural performance for the year 2022. This will largely be determined by key issues such as the worsening state of insecurity, climate change, agrofinance, inputs and also poor research funding that have continued to impact farmers' productivity and the sector's contribution to economic growth. Now, a total of 2.1 trillion naira food products were imported into the country from January through September last year, indicating a 75% rise when compared to the 1.2 trillion naira in the corresponding period of 2022, and that's according to data from the National Bureau of Statistics Trade Report. Nigeria exported agri-food items worth 165.27 billion naira in the second quarter of last year, representing about 112% increase compared to the 78.03 billion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2020, which was one of the highest on record according to the NBS data. Now, the recent value also represents a 30% increase when compared to 127.18 billion naira worth of export, which was recorded in the previous quarter. That's the first quarter of the year 2021. Now, for Nigeria to really consolidate on efforts in the agri sector to boost food sufficiency and export, there's the need for improved and technology-driven value chain solutions. Well, joining me virtually to discuss this and much more from Abuja, I have Atta Anzaku, the Executive Director, Partnerships and Community Development at Agro. Thank you very much for joining us on the breakfast show this morning, Atta.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start with this conversation with efforts at both private and public levels, government levels in Nigeria, looking at technology-driven value chains in the quest for increased food production and then also export. What's your outlook for the year 2022, and how much of an investment base would you say will be needed to fund these solutions, taking cues from the performance we saw last year in 2021?
Yes, so let me introduce myself again. My name is Atta Anzaku. I'm a founder and director at agro. Yes, your question. Thinking about it, we will need to have significant investment, especially in data collection, because that's the main issue we have in the agri space. There isn't enough data collection in the space. You know, you have a lot of archaic and old farming ways that people are still farming, and it's causing leakages here and there. So we need to improve on data collection. That needs to be heavily invested in. And I'm so happy that the MBS has some of those data, but we need to go down to the rural areas and the farms and invest more in data collection.
Okay, now there's also the argument that Nigerians can barely feed. Looking at the cost of food items, we aren't also producing enough, while the cost of production of food is relatively high and also threatened by the state of insecurity. Hence, in the country now, talks around having a strong output for exports. It's somewhat of a secondary element here. With the government looking to earn more foreign exchange and also expand its base of influence, what sort of incentives do you also think we can have to catalyze such initiatives like the Anchor Borrowers Program and even beyond to provide a straightforward access now for agro products which create higher income opportunities for smallholder farmers, agro processors, and also reduce this issue of food wastage we have within the agriculture value chain?
Thank you for that question. So, for me, let me bring it down to our business. You know, a lot of people want to invest in agri, but the environment is quite harsh. And what do I mean by harsh? Like, for instance, we in our company, we employ close to 300, 400 women in post-cleaning harvesting. And on a daily basis, you see tax collectors coming to harass you. You haven't paid this revenue, you haven't paid that. So this will be some form of tax breaks for companies that are invested in agri. That way it encourages people, because you have so much harassment from tax officials. Pay your tax. And also there should be access to cheap grants and cheap loans, you know. You're doing a lot for the community. You're trying to bring a lot of people out of poverty and make and meet up with the UN Sustainable Millennium Development Goals. So the government should encourage agri people to be able to get grants and cheap loans as well. And also, when it comes to, you know, securing land, you know, the government, like state government, federal government, should be able to allocate like large amounts of land at next to nothing, so that you develop, because you're going to bring economic prosperity to such communities. That's how to encourage, aside from the anchor borrower scheme, because the anchor borrower scheme is one of many ways to encourage these things. But what I've mentioned will help a lot.
Okay, now, after wrapping up our conversation, let's look at the conversation around stiffer competition within the commodities market. Now, using your experience as a case study within your field of work in the export of dried hibiscus flower, ginger, sesame seed, and other products, how would you say we, in terms of developing a competitive edge, in what area would you say we have to sharpen our edge now, looking at quality of our produce and better understand the critical elements here with regards to research and also standardization?
Okay. Like we mentioned earlier, the value chain is quite important. And first of all, the first thing I would say that we need to change is the culture. You know, if you look at our culture, there isn't so much reward for being entrepreneurial, being very creative. The Nigerian space, or the culture being encouraged, is that of rent seeking and quick money. You know, so a lot of people go into agric just to make a quick buck, and then they're not really interested in investing, in going the long haul and going through the proper process. Everything that you have in the agric space is very subsistent. That means you have a lot of people just going in to just have something that they can eat and feed their families, or use it to go on holidays and travel. So there isn't so much enthusiasm and passion put into what is being done. So that's a major thing I see. And let me reiterate again, data collection is so important in the whole value chain when it comes to improving our competitive drive in the international market. And when I mean the value chain, I'm talking about processing, I'm talking about distribution, especially in the processing. You know, there's a lot of, and logistics, there's a lot of, you know, you have bad roads before farmers can get their stuff to the end user. It gets bad, there are poor storage facilities. So these are the things that we need to look at. And like I said, there isn't so much meaningful investment because people are not willing to put in so much effort because everybody wants a quick buck. So the culture needs to change, and it has to start from education. Education, what I mean, from the family and right to schools. You know, everybody needs to be encouraged that you must build something that you will build and that will outlive you. Because if you look at what we have in Nigeria now, most, I mean, you can count off the top of your head how many brands that you have that have outlived generations. Most businesses are just come, go, feed the family, and then once the owner is gone, those dies with the wind.
I like the fact that you also bring into the scope of this discussion issues around value addition, processing, and much more now. In terms of now a stronger policy drive for the year 2022, this is the pre-election year. We have to wake up and smell the coffee that largely would be seen politicking rather than having policies come into bear that would consolidate in any efforts we've made so far. So looking at the second half of this year, we are barely short of any time to make any change. How do you see things playing out in terms of the policy drive and setting a new tempo for the next administration in just about 10 seconds?
Well, you know, it's an electioneering year, so I don't see much changing. You know, all the politicians are just more interested in getting themselves in office. So I guess what we'll do is just wait and see what the new administration is going to bring. But for now, we'll just keep on pushing and going with the policies that are on ground and try to create as much value as we can before the next administration comes in.
Thank you so much for your time on the breakfast show this morning. Atta Nzanku, we've been speaking with the Executive Director, Partnership and Community Development at Agro. Thank you very much once again for your time. And then we hope that government takes seriously the agenda towards agriculture development.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.